all the experiences that I've had along the way in different areas of my life, and now I see
superstar on here. But I always gotta yell at you off camera because you legit don't think anything of anything you've ever done. You're way I love humble people. You're way too humble, and I get pissed at it sometimes because I'm like, Jesus Christ, relax. Not a lot of people do this stuff. But to see you even if it's through something like writing, which gets unlocked by meditation, to see you reflect on that a little bit and understand that, oh yeah, that's some wild shit. Not a lot of people did that, and then you get to put it even through a little fictionalized version. Who cares?
That's exactly it, and you make a great point, and I think part of it is that being kind to yourself, right? And you have helped me to be kinder to myself. I'm not where I probably should be or want to be, but it's sure as hell getting better. And I think that's important, is to just think about life that way. Let's be kinder to ourselves. You can't really treat other people fully, the way they deserve to be treated until you treat yourself that way. And so, just thinking about those people in my life that I've known that have gotten that early, have established that way of thinking early, and looking at their accomplishments, not just their professional accomplishments or what they've done, in the limelight, more so what they've done as a person, how their families are, how their friends are, how they actually really truly are concerned with what other people need, what makes other people tick, and really good at it. And it doesn't matter what age you get it at. You can get it. Some guys get it. Some people get it as kids. Truly, it takes some people a little bit longer, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm in a great spot to be able to reflect on things that I've done now and utilize that information in order to just kind of, I guess, subconsciously mentor other people. Just be around and say, Diorio's okay with that. I think I just carry myself a little bit differently. And we're going on 5 years of retirement.
Shit, wow.
So that's a long period of time.
From the FBI, at least.
Yeah, from the FBI. And so you're thinking that's what, going on 250 weeks, roughly, of retirement. So that's 500 polygraphs, basically, that I didn't have to take. But yeah, I just think things start to loosen up, and then I talk to friends who are still in the bureau, who are still in the military, who are still in the agency, who are still doing things, and I think to myself, wow, the stuff they're kind of caught up on and I was there, right? And I'm able to say to them, stop. Doesn't matter, There's dopes everywhere. Just because we're supposed to be the knights in shining armor, you think that your agency is. There's dopes everywhere. So just go with that and make that decision that you're going to think about things for yourself. And you're going to fight the battles you need to fight. And you're going to lay back on things that really you can't change certain people.
The perspective of the outside.
Exactly right.
It's
a beautiful thing.
You know who else has some perspective of the outside now? Your buddy.
Oh, yeah.
It's written on your mug right now, your buddy, Defense Secretary Esper.
No doubt about it.
What is going on there? So and full disclosure, I know you've read the book. It just came out. And for people that don't know, he was under Trump, inspired right after Trump lost the election, before his term was up. But you were roommates with him, one of your roommates at Westbrook.
Yeah, a good friend.
You're not.
You take the fighter wherever you go. Radical. Free you. Show him what you got. Hit him with a Hadouken. And now destroy you.
I saw you.
Yeah.
I was going with what I knew.
Time to add her to my lineup.
A guy that I've become closer to in the last year or two. The thing for me is I've heard, and I'm about, I'd say I'm a couple, probably 3 hours into the listen. I'm listening to it, and it's great. It really is. It gives me time to shut it down for a minute and think about something or whatever. But I think what needs to be known, and it fractured my class of 86, my West Point class of 86.
Really?
On social media, yeah, in the book, in the 60 Minutes interview.
Now, how many people do you think actually read the book?
Nobody's read the book. Nobody's read the book, but they watched the 20 minutes of, as you and I have talked about, 60 Minutes, where they can make anything look like anything else.
I say this real fast
Absolutely.
on the record? Because you and I have
Sure.
said this off the record.
Yeah.
I can't. Maybe it's just I'm so hyper aware of edits because of what I do, and like we keep a free flowing podcast. My goal is to not edit anything. But like sometimes if someone pauses for 10 seconds to gather themselves, of course I take that out. Do you know how I sit here on volume 110 to make sure as if no one even knows that was ever there?
I know.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
And then I watch something like 60 Minutes. These are the worst. Every one of those editors should be fired. These are the worst edited interviews I've ever seen. Someone will be talking about something and then they'll cut to a different camera at a different volume level that was probably a half hour later. His hair's out of place. And then it's about something entirely new. And I'm watching it. I'm like, maybe I'm the only one noticing it. Maybe only people who do this notice it. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, like it's not even, there's no flow to it.
No flow. You're absolutely right. And so if you take the 90% of people, probably a lot of the folks in my class who are interested to watch it, right? Because it's appealing to us. It's appealing to have a friend that you know on a different level and that's on, a major telecast, right? So it's appealing, but, until you kind of do you still have to do your research. You still have to grind down on what you think or whether or not you knew him or others in the class that well enough to understand the dynamic, right?
Can you explain to people what he's saying right now for those who are not familiar?
Yeah, so I mean, bottom line, simplifying it is he was so distraught. Mark is an extremely serious. We all take the oath of office several times, right? So you're commissioning. You're day one at West Point. You're commissioning as an officer.
You're
Mark
so
has taken
fucking
it several.
trash,
I
bro.
did it as an FBI agent. I did it as an FBI supervisor. I did it for other reasons back in the military. You take the sacred oath, and it's basically, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what it comes down to.
Still
It's
not
not
gonna
to support and defend
do it.
any particular person, any particular party, any particular belief. It's the Constitution of the United States. And we've talked about this before, the Constitution and the thought process behind federal prosecutors and all those things. But in this particular instance, Mark was faced with some challenges, not only as the Secretary of the Army, but then as a guy who was bumped up to Secretary of Defense. And there were some other issues that happened that allowed him that opportunity. Thank God he had the opportunity to do it. And there was another guy that I think his name was Shanahan, who was really good, who was the acting Secretary of Defense for a while.
Mattis left?
After Mattis left. He was Mattis's vice.
Got it.
And then Mattis leaves, and then, of course, we can only kill our people, and have smiles on our face. So they find stuff on Shanahan personally. Some divorce that he went through, which
who cares?
Exactly. And there's no ex-wife that's going to be like, oh yes, he's going to be wonderful. It's just not going to happen. Hence why I told you before, the first thing we ever did on any kind of public corruption case, my guys would come in and sit down. What should we do first, boss? Interview the ex-wife.
Oh God.
Because you will get everything that you need. Well, and my sister, I like the I do these things, right? So Mark is elevated. He's confirmed. I think it was a 90-8 vote in the Senate. Trump only had 3 of those prior to, in 2017, early 2000. This is 2020. That's we're getting a 90-8, right? That's pretty damn good.
Well, how long? Because he got fired via tweet on November 9th. I remember that. Right after the election.
Yep.
How long was he in there? A year?
He was about a year. Okay. Yeah. I think he was acting for quite a bit of time and then finally confirmed and became Secretary of Defense. But remember, he was in the Pentagon the whole time because he was Secretary of the Army at the time.
And before that, he was a part of the military-industrial complex, Raytheon.
Absolutely, and also a guy who was back in the Pentagon doing and traveling the world doing good work. Like what? I don't know the exact, I think the book's going to explain a little bit more. I don't know enough about Mark's, those years to be able to comment on it, really.
You also can't say.
Maybe. But what happens is, guys now in the class, and you can tell the guys that really are making these huge accusations or judgments, yet I know they don't know because of what they're saying, right? So Mark is he's a black and white guy, right? So, and he expects you to be as prepared as he is. He expects you to be as thorough as he is and was. He expects you to be a guy that's going to get to the bottom of every particular situation that you are privy to and also that you're responsible for. So take it back to West Point, right? In any class at West Point, there's 5 people that rise to the top in the leadership portion of that place, right? So it's kind of what we call a whole person concept. So it's your academics, which we know who is number 1 in our class academically, Mike Pompeo. Athletics, right, which they rank you in athletics as well. And then there's also a military grade, a military score, which combines your leadership, it combines your understanding of tactics, it combines your ability to look at, kind of battles in the past and come up with a clear, concise explanation of why that was so important, why that was changed, changed the way modern warfare is, or was the worst thing that could have possibly happened, right? So it's kind of, that's the levels that West Point brings you to. Now, within that, there's 5 particular people that rise to the top in any class. Mark was one of those guys. Steve Cannon, another one of those guys. So, Steve's the president. He was president and CEO of Mercedes-Benz, my class. And then now he's Arthur Blank CEO. So he manages the Falcons, he manages the Atlantic United, BJ Superstore, Depot. He's got a lot going on. Right?
Oh, that's how you were doing stuff with the Falcons.
Correct. Correct. Okay. So Esper was a guy at school, smart guy academically, clearly a smart book guy, but also a guy that was just a driven leader. From a western PA town, the same town actually where General George Marshall, one of the heroes of World War II, and a 5-star, came from. So, Mark was a guy that just standards were everything. So even at school, and it didn't matter if you were his friend. It didn't matter if you were somebody that he really didn't know in the class. If there was a standard to be met and you weren't meeting it, Mark was going to tell you, and he was going to go to the next level with that. That's never changed. So these guys are like, there's still people in the class that hold him for something he did when we were 21 years old. For instance, hey, I got to go out and I got a sports activity this afternoon. And before sports activity at West Point, I don't know if it's still that way, you get inspected. You go in your uniform, not your sports uniform. You go in your West Point gear, right, with your shoes to be shining and everything. Now, most guys are going to look and say, look, hey, you're okay. Even if your shoes are a little bit smudged or your belt buckle's not shining. Not Mark Esper, but it wouldn't matter if it was your roommate or somebody you didn't know. So to be shocked and surprised at that, to me, is ridiculous.
And there's people who you're saying,
they're like, oh my God, this guy, he's a treasonist, because he told Trump that we can't shoot people, protesters during the George Floyd situation.
Let's back it up. Let's get into some of this stuff now too, because anything that you were telling me, especially while this was still an active presidency, was obviously lock and seal confidential. What's nice is now he's putting some stuff out there.
Yeah.
But so less from him, more from what seemed to be Mike Pompeo and some of the other guys you had over there. I heard a lot of this stuff from you. I heard what was going on behind the scenes, and this is always a weird territory to wade into, because whenever you bring up Biden or Trump or something, there's people who immediately perk up and want to punch you in the face, and they're like, all right, I'm going to say yes. So we're going to have a diplomatic conversation, and we'll let people draw away what they will. But what became clear to me as an outside observer from the things I was hearing is that Donald Trump's trait of not giving a fuck went so far beyond the realm of just getting around bureaucracy that it actually got to the point where guys around him, and I don't want to make this sound wrong for their sake, but people around him had to find ways to massage the conversations with him to avoid traumatic situations. I know one of them was, I remember this one when it was going on and you were talking about it, he wanted to unleash the U.S. Army on 5 cities or something around America during George Floyd to shoot to kill. And Esper had to be like, we're not declaring war. This is bad, but we're not doing that. We can't really do that. And in the book, I know one of them that we can get into was he said something about he wanted
Shit.
to send a missile to Mexico and say it wasn't us or something like that. And
Well,
Esper had to say that can't happen.
I don't know if he wanted to be like, what's enough? I just think it was, let's launch a missile to Mexico, you know, and
For what?
because that's the only way we're going to be able to control the border. In his mind.
That's going to send people over the border.
But take the other, I think it starts with the handling of a narcissistic person, right? How do you handle that in a way where you maintain the Constitution, you maintain the safety of the American people, national security, the safety of the military, right? Which Trump isn't a guy that's going to think about. Now, he probably loves America, but he does not understand what it means to be a true soldier, a true patriot for this
Neither
country,
do I,
right?
you know.
Well, you do more. You do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You know, yes, you do. And there's not any of us that wouldn't write a check. You know, at least in my group of people, and I think you fall right into that. You write a check, and I've had so many people say, "Well, I'm so sad I didn't get a chance to get deployed or didn't do this." Doesn't matter. Did you write that check? And that check was to the United States of America for up to and including my life. I'll write that check, a blank check. I mean, you have your life, so you can rent your life. It's dumb. But ultimately, you're dealing with a guy who's a narcissist who really doesn't understand what it means when you do things.
This nigga left, bruh.
And the knee-jerk
Oh,
goes
no,
along with
son.
that, and then you've got people
Bruh.
that have to come together who are
Bruh.
brilliant minds. You know, brilliant minds. They've served their entire life thinking about national security, and they have to come up with options for you and solutions and recommend to you why that's really not a great idea to start shooting people in protests.
These are so. This is the thing. They're so beyond the pale. Like before you even have to explain that, your mind already has to be racing. Like he's saying.
Here we
this
go
shit.
again. Well,
Yeah.
Well, that's what the book, and I've got, you know, obviously I've got knowledge, outside independent knowledge from the book, but if the book will explain why, how often it happened, why it kind of happened, what was going on at the time, and then what the result was of the gathering of the powers that be in the National Security Alliance to kind of get past it, right? To have to put up with the screaming, the yelling, the insults, and then ultimately the realization that, yeah, we probably can't do that. And the way they would do that is be factual about what would happen. You know, here's what's going to happen should you choose to do this. Like, do you remember when that, I think it was like an unmanned aircraft was shot down, one of our aircrafts, one of our surveillance planes. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it wasn't long ago. Shot down, $200 million piece of equipment, right? Gathering information and intel over one of the waterways. It was basically to determine whether or not there was movement, right? So, Trump's reaction to that was initially, well, let's bomb the shit out of the people, and I think it was the Iranians that found out.
Oh, was this the Soleimani thing?
I don't think it was. I don't think it was, but basically, Trump says, "Hey, let's bomb the shit out of." I think the Iranians. I think so.
That was I remember this. This was when Esper was first on this.
Correct.
And you were like, son of a narcissistic son of a bitch. Like, obviously, General Soleimani was a bad guy, but it was like there was a risk that there was going to be something after that by making that decision.
No doubt. But the only thing that got Trump kind of thinking about it was when they put the expected number of deaths, the body count, on it. They said, look, even if we do it, because he's like, well, fuck it, just do it in the middle of the night. There'll be people there. So they said, well, you're going to kill, you know, we imagine it's going to be 150 people. 150 people. And he backed off. Good. All right, backed off. But you know, he was ordering that launch. Period. He was ordering that in.
Guys, how many times do you think, and I'm asking you both like here, weren't there? Just judging his brash New York businessman style, how many times do you think he just like walked in the room like, we need to bomb all of them, kill them, and people are like, whoa, 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 okay. I think and 2 minutes later he's like, you're right, we're not gonna do that. This is like, he's down on the table, we're doing this no matter what.
Or never, you're right, we're not gonna do this, just be pissed and just not talk to you for 2 months.
See, that's a problem.
So you know, if you're sitting, if you've got a seat at the table and everyone else at that table respects you, and you've got a guy that's just ignoring you, whose problem is it? His.
Yeah.
But yet you're feeling like you gotta be fucking kidding me, like cut you off, not allow you to talk. This is a guy.
This week I've been manually reconfiguring my 8 Sleep app just to like test around different temperatures to sleep on and see how fast my body gets used to certain things. I've talked about it in the past. I love sleeping cold, but like, do I want to sleep in very cold, or like extremely cold metric, or do I want to sleep mild cold, or like just like a little bit cold? And so I've been doing something different each night, but it's amazing how aware my body becomes of what the mattress is doing because I'm like thinking about it. And then when I look at the statistics the next day, I can correlate how I felt with what I actually ended up getting. Like how fast did I fall asleep? How many times did I toss and turn throughout the night? Like it'll show you in hourly increments as well. So you can see like when you were at certain stages of sleep, whether or not you're sleeping great or not so great. And then I can figure out over time, like, oh, well, maybe I like sleeping on -6 as opposed to -8. It's so cool. The 8 Sleep 5 Pro cover, talk about everything. It comes in queen or king sizes. It goes right on top of your current mattress. And it is wired directly into the app I speak of, where you can measure all these things and understand why when you sleep on an 8 Sleep 5 Pro cover, you can sleep 6 hours and feel like you slept 8. It's a beautiful thing. So if you use the link in my description, along with the code TRENDIFIER at checkout, that's TRENDIFIER, you get $150 off own 8 Sleep 5 Pro cover today. Once again, make sure you use that code TRENDIFIER at checkout to get the $150 off. But you will get the actual Pod Pro cover, you will get the app obviously that you download to come with that, and it will change how you look and sleep forever. So check it out.
Mark Esper's a guy. There's not a hard-working guy out there. This guy, and his wife. I mean, and his wife geared up. They geared up.
Oh, you think she's sweet? Oh, my boy. Oh, my boy.
There's a lot going on in life. I know the bottom of that. And he has. I know for a fact he's got one of the best BS meters in the history of the world, right? But he'll even tell you that he does. He just knows. And it's not that you have a BS meter, and I've said this before. It's the fact that you get to the bottom of something. And when people know that they're not prepared, or when they know they haven't done what they should have done,